not the chance to steal it away. Steal it away to risk her life and good name, to risk all comfort for willful hope that just one letter was waiting there. With eyes cast down, she rode the horse back through a blue haze over Carolina's high country, resonating now with words she read out loud and slowly, to a sweet mountain morning, to the east fork of Pigeon, to the 5 glorious hills, to the stolen horse, and to herself.
He was asking me about her a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
If she was a warden.
yeah, she just decided if he wouldn't let her borrow the horse, she'd just steal it.
Remind me to look in that book. And it's Meece, M-E-E-C-E. I'll look and see if that's not also in my
Yeah,
book.
please
If
do.
it is, I'll copy it and send it.
Thank you. You've got my address now.
If I don't lose it.
Okay, and the next one I would like to read to you is on page 11. And this story is also about Miriam, and she had 3 or 4, well, let's see, first of 4, she had 4 little boys. And this is another story, and this phrase, she made them step. Now that was Ann Isey's language, and I don't know if you've heard that before or not, but I'd not heard anybody say she made them step.
Made them stay.
Made them step. Have you ever heard it, Carolyn?
I've heard the term step up. That means to hurry up.
Step up, yeah. Well, Ann Isey said that if she was going to be in charge of those 4 boys, they were going to mind her, and they were going to mind her good. And so that was how she described it. She made them step, like she made them march, and she made them stay in line.
Yeah.
So this was the poem I wrote because Ann Isey said that. The first of 4 sons was 6 years old when he watched his father march away to civil war. Miriam was small, yet wiry. She and Suki, the old slave girl, taught her sons about daily chores, and she made them step. They learned about black woolly worms in hard winters, how not to plant until after a late blackberry freeze, and not to pick corn until the silks were brown and shriveled. They learned that cornbread and milk was not only for breakfast, and that apples were still sweet when rimy frost covered bare trees. And if there was bacon, it was salty. She made them step, yet she taught them how to climb the mountainside and pick ripe red raspberries, to walk to Clark's for molasses that turned pumpkins into spicy Kershaw pies, to fish for wild brook trout in Pigeon's cool summer waters, and to scooch up to her when fires burned out.
That Clark, the molasses is right below my house.
Clark's? Well, I knew they had to be down the road because the boys would, she'd send them down there to get molasses.
We used to have to make the molasses.
Yeah, and the word Scrooge, people think this is a typo, but this is the way they spelled it because that's the way it sounded to them. Scooch up to me and stay warm.
That word is used commonly around here.
Scooch up? Yeah. Well, I don't.
Scooch up.
Yeah. Scooch up to me, honey.
Come here and scooch my back, I'm cold.
Well, I like that word, Nino. And I imagine those 4 little boys like that word too, because you can imagine that they would miss their father and that they would be afraid and frightened sometimes. And I imagine the fires did burn out through the long cold nights and maybe wood wasn't in the house. So it was a good word and it turned into a good poem. I'll read the one on page 13 for you and all you and Teresa and all the research you've done on Thomas's Legion. These men all had a strong kinship to one another because they were neighbors, family. How many trolls did we count? 4 or 5 trolls that were in there, and 2 of the Mises, but they were neighbors. And in those days, These neighbors took care of each other, and they were all like family. And so this legion was a very close legion, and they were all friendly with the Cherokee Indians too. The Highlanders lived in the Blue Ridge Mountains with the Cherokee Indians. They knew of a loyal friend the Cherokees honored as their white chief, William H. Thomas. Little Will worked as their agent and state senator to restore native lands in western North Carolina. Then he served with them as the colonel of his renowned legion of Highlanders and Cherokees. When North Carolinians could no longer remain neutral in the face of an advancing civil war, Thomas's legion fought fiercely and proudly in defense of their mountain homes for 3 years. Then fired the final shots of war at Sulphur Springs near Waynesville on May 6, 1865. The Legion was honored and decorated for sacrifice and bravery. They became a legend in their own time and time evermore. And this lady represents that.
And the unfortunate thing is that most of the people have forgotten about Thomas's Legion. They know very little about
Yeah,
it.
you're right, because everywhere I called, they did not know.
It's like Teresa said, Thomas's Legion was not. He went to first the governor, I think it was Governor Vance, then he went to President Davis, and he made a case to them both. Let me form this legion in western North Carolina, and those men will be fierce fighters and defenders of their home. This is where they live. And he knew that they could fight and defend them. So this legion was very unique and was the only one ever to be formed. But when the war was over, they did not recognize his legion. All of the other companies and states recognized the traditional army formations, but Thomas's Legion did not get the recognition that he deserved. And that's why it's so important for organizations such as yours. And Teresa has been a real advocate of this, giving the man the honor that he deserved, because he thought by keeping these men at home and being familiar with their own territory that it would save lives, and that because it was their homes, that they would serve with loyalty, which they all did, even to the bitter end, when they knew that it was futile to keep fighting. They were loyal to one another right to the end. So I'm grateful that we have these organizations, that he was an admirable person. He fought and served his whole life to see that the Cherokees got their land restored to them so they could stay here in North Carolina. Hi, come in.
And
Just bring a chair over.
Sit right there.
That's fine. I'll get a chair.
it was the only outfit, if you want to call it that had artillery, infantry, and cavalry
Yes.
under one
Right.
unit.
Yeah, this was the uniqueness of the Legion, and that's why there was, to that time, there had never been a Legion formed in American armies and military, and there has never been one since. And he had the artillery, he had the cavalry, and he had the infantry, which our two grandfathers were in the infantry. And that's what designated it as a legion and not just a company or a battalion or a regiment. It was unique. But inevitably what happened, because the men he had such faith in served so well, other officers wanted those troops for theirs. And so many times after a battle, one of the leaders may have been injured, and they would just attach themselves to those troops. And finally, Thomas's Legion was pretty much dismantled, I think, by the end, except for the group at Teresa comment on that. Because
Well, they took it away from him, but he got it back.
Right, you got it back.
Yes.
Yeah, it was taken away, and they were trying to send the men north. And he fought that and managed to keep them together here because he thought it was strategically important to keep that gap protected. Because
Yes.
if the gap fell, then they knew North Carolina would be gone.
Yeah. So it is important that we remember him, not only for what his contribution to the Civil War in Western North Carolina, but for the benevolent work he did all of his life until his health actually prevented him from going on, to make sure that the Cherokee Indians were protected, because they had adopted him and they had made him the only white chief of the Cherokee tribe. And so he was a very unique character. Yeah, one that North Carolina can be very proud of. So good for your organization. Okay, I'm going to read the poem on page 15 called Inside the Knapsack. When these men, when conscription came in '62, early in '62, the men had to go